Hello and welcome to The Slice. My name is Michael, and today I have a very special guest. His name is Junaid Ahmed. Junaid, how are you? Are you well?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Michael, for having me.
My pleasure. And where in the world are you at the moment?
I'm in Herndon, Virginia, USA.
There you go. See, the show has gone international finally. Have you seen the show before?
I have, yes.
So you understand roughly how the show works. You get 10 minutes to talk about your business, who you are. I'll ask some relative video questions. And then as soon as the time is up, that's it, conversation over. Is that all right?
That works for me.
Let's do it. So your timer has started. So first of all, Junaid, who are you and what do you do?
So, I am a passionate photographer, user experience designer, and a technologist. I've been tinkering with technology for as long as I can remember. And the most distant memory that I have of using camera professionally or even jumping into it was back in, well, it's almost 10 years ago when I first got my DSLR camera as a gift, right? And I was like, let's learn everything from the top to bottom because you have a lot more controls. So I immediately took courses on lynda.com when that used to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now LinkedIn owns it. They had a foundation of photography. I was like, I need to understand the foundations of photography before I can go any further. Sure, I've been taking photos and recording videos on different types of cameras, but I was like, this is a different beast altogether. Let's learn it from the top down. So I learned using this course, and I was like, wow, I should have taken this course earlier because I can use all of the technology, all of the lessons in here with
Mm-hmm.
literally any camera. So that's where I got introduced to more video production, more photography, got more deep into it, and that's who I am.
And so what? So the first question I'm going to ask, obviously, as a filmmaker, what was the first camera that you started off with?
The very first camera that I was shooting videos with was a Canon HX60. It was a 8 millimeter sorry, not a film, but a cassette that you would put in there.
Like a little
And
DV tape.
no, not even a DV, before the DV tape.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
And the only way that I remember taking footage off of that camera, because this was in the 90s, I think 95, 96, or even earlier than that, was 92. I think was when we got it. So you put this tape in, and the only way to get video off of it is through those red, blue, and yellow connectors. So it's not even HD, right? It's 480. I
Wow.
looked through that footage and I was like, oh my god, this is so tiny.
You don't look old enough to
I
have been
don't look
doing
old enough.
that.
Well,
I
thank you so
started
much.
off with DV tape, and do you remember you had to play it through on the camera, and it had to then obviously in real time. You had
Yes.
to wait for it in real time to kind of
Yes.
upload onto the computer, and that used to just take forever. Thank God for the digital age.
I know.
Um, so in terms of us, you said that you started off in photography and you do a bit of film now. What do you prefer the most? What, or is it a nice 50-50 balance?
I think I prefer film more in terms of doing it professionally.
Hmm.
Anytime it comes for photography, I feel like I spend more time with it on photography with my kids and family. Most of the time I'm taking family photos, so using the high-end camera is like, oh, Junaid's got the camera, he's gonna take the photos. So that's where the photography comes in. I haven't charged anybody to take photos in that respect, but I have charged people to record videos.
I am exactly the same, and it's just a breath of fresh air to have somebody else that is the same as me. I can take
Yeah.
a photo, but I don't really like charging people to do it because it's again, it's I think it's for me, it's a lack of just understanding, and it's something
Hmm.
that I think there are so many talented people out there that do photography. I'd
Yeah.
rather just let them do it, and
Yeah.
I just want to focus purely on being a better filmmaker rather than splitting my time over two different things. Is that pretty much
Absolutely.
the same for you then, is it?
Absolutely 100%.
Mm. So, what camera are you using now?
So I'm using a Canon EOS R, the first Canon mirrorless full frame camera. So I've got a couple of those. And then, so here's the funny thing, right? Whenever you get a camera, like for example, my first camera was a T4i, the Canon,
Hmm.
and it was a cross, so it's a, what's that, crop sensor,
It would, yeah. I mean, I had a
right?
70D, and that was a crop sensor.
Yep. And I was like, okay, this is great, but why don't I get a full frame, right? So for the longest time, I had the itch to get a full frame because anytime you're trying to convert that, high or, like for example, if I use a 50 millimeter or 100 millimeter, like it's not really 50, it's not
No,
really 100,
no.
right? It's always like you got to step 10 steps further back to get that footage.
And I was never good at maths either, so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely, yeah. I can understand your pain there.
It was a pain. And then I read and watched so many videos, and one person was like, I rather prefer uh, a crop sensor camera because you don't have to spend that much on your on your lenses. I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, I guess you're right, but it comes with time and experience. So my first full sensor camera, full frame camera was the Canon 60 Mark II. Now
Okay.
60 when it first came out, I was like, okay, 60 is pretty nice, but it could probably use a little more. And I think with Mark II, they introduced the flip out screen, and I,
It
and I was
did.
used to the flip out screen with the T4i, so I was like, all right, this is the one I'm gonna get.
Yeah, I went from the 70D straight over to Sony. But I always wanted the 7D because that was obviously full frame, but it didn't have the flip out screen.
Yeah.
And now I'm with the Sony that doesn't have a flip out screen. Oh, I tell you what, trying to do vlogs and trying to do pieces to camera on your own is one of the
Mm-hmm.
hardest things. So I think I'm going to have to invest in a monitor. But I think for what the Sony gives me now, I would like to have stayed with Canon. And it sounds like you stayed quite true to Canon and you
Mm-hmm.
stuck with them. And I'm hearing some great things with them. And I probably will maybe jump back to Canon in the future.
Yeah.
But there's so much choice out there. So in terms of obviously, you've got your own podcast. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the podcast started back in 2018, and it was just me documenting the process of beekeeping. So I am also a beekeeper, and
Of course.
I of course, I have a ton of hobbies, and my colleagues would ask me, hey, what's your new hobby this week? Because number one, I am a very passionate individual. Anything I learn about, I go deep dive into it,
Best way to
and
be.
right. So I've invested in a ton of Kickstarter campaigns, and I would talk about these things to my colleagues, and they're like, "Dude, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, I just love this stuff, right?" And I was into cycling, did cycling a lot. So 2018, I took a course on beekeeping, and they're like, "Dude, you're doing too much." I'm like, "No, I don't think I'm doing enough." Right? And it's like, and then just around the same time when I had finished the class, I also finished reading Gary Vaynerchuk's book,
Mhm.
Crushing It. And he's
Yeah,
like, don't overthink it. Just
just do
document
it. Just do
whatever
it.
you're doing.
Hmm.
I'm like, what am I waiting for? And fortunately, I was helping somebody else launch a podcast, and I ran into this app called Anchor.
Hmm.
And record your podcast on your phone. I mean, get out of town, right? The my first experience recording a podcast was 2018, sorry, 2012, and we were using Hangouts and recording that audio, and then we had to stream it live to YouTube for it to be able to recording that content, and then
Hmm.
downloading that. So I was like, those days are gone. This is so
Crazy
easy.
process, isn't it? But you got it done.
I got it done. So now on the phone, since I was also commuting, 1 hour each way, I was like, hey, I can utilize this time to record my podcast. So my first episode ever, I called it Queen Bee because somebody mentioned, hey, you're a beekeeper, you should talk about Queen Bee. And you know who Queen Bee is, right? Beyonce. I was like, no, I
Mm.
had no idea. So my first episode on the podcast was about Beyonce or Queen Bee. And I didn't even have a name for the podcast. And I just sat in the car, I started recording. And then 2 days later, after I was like, okay, the podcast is going to be called Hacks and Hobbies. I did some research. Nobody had taken that domain, that name. So Hacks and Hobbies was born, I think, April of 2018. And it's just been amazing since then.
Because you've got about 220 odd podcasts now, haven't you?
Absolutely. There's about 220 episodes.
That's crazy. So obviously video's played a big part in your life, and it's had a big impact in your life as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you'd be where you are now if you hadn't implemented video?
I think so. Because without video, see, the dynamics of video, what it does, it enables you to connect with the person on the other side without even have to thinking. I mean, take a look at movies and TV shows and the type of emotion they evoke in you. People are bonkers about a new TV show when it comes out because they can relate.
They can.
Right? And that's that's the power of video, because we, like, as human beings, we love to connect. I recently finished watching Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, there's your timer. Your timer's got. I saw it and I thought, oh no, I've asked a question. We've literally only got a minute left. What was you just about to say? What were you about to watch?
So at the end of the show, at the end of the third season of the Star Trek Discovery, Gene Roddenberry, there's a quote in it at the end of it, and I was like, I need to get a screenshot of it, and I'm going to read it to you. In a very real sense, we are all aliens on a strange planet. We spend most of our lives reaching out and trying to communicate. If during our whole lifetime we could reach out and really communicate with just 2 people, we are indeed very fortunate. So Gene Roddenberry wrote this, and he's the producer, and he's basically the guy behind Star Trek. Now, I didn't follow Star Trek from the beginning. I really got into it when the new movies came out, and then this new show was just bonkers. And when I read this, and basically what's happening in the show, right? If you've seen Star Trek, we're going out, contacting, making that first contact, and how we're going to represent ourselves, the Federation, or
it's
just beautiful.
It's quite true to the way life is at the moment. And I was only thinking about that the other day as well.
Yeah.
But we are going to have to stop there, because I feel it's not fair on all the other people.
Absolutely. Do it.
I mean, it's my show. I can do what I want. But I think if we do keep talking, we're going to...
No, it's all you now.
Did you enjoy the show?
Dude, that was really awesome. I got to focus on what I specifically wanted to talk about.
Good.
And that was just, it was really fun. I would love to come back.
Well, you are more than welcome to come back, and hopefully over the next couple of weeks and months that I'll be able to get to know you a bit more and see how I can help you from the other side of the pond. But that is the timer, and we have self-indulged a little bit, but it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. If anybody would like to watch any previous episodes, you can head over to youtube.com/TakeTheGatePro. If you would like to see all the latest videos, then don't forget to click the bell and hit the subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.